Alright everyone, you remember years ago when the term woke first entered the public lexicon? Everyone knew what it stood for. Wokeness, as defined by the people that were applying that term to themselves, they would say, well, woke versus broke. There's some leftist memes about it. Their purpose was to predefine it before it could be, the waters could be muddied. We'll talk about this. There's some gaslighting going on. Their attempt was to define it as being aware of the historical struggles of people of color, of women, etc., minorities, anyone other than those evil, pale-faced colonialists. Everyone else in the world has a grievance against them somehow, despite the fact that everything that they do was already done in other parts of the world by people to other people on a regular basis for thousands of years. It's Marxism. Wokeness is an offshoot of CRT. If you don't believe me, you can of course check up on CRT and its basic premises. I've already done a booklet debunking its 5 major premises, but there's plenty of literature dating back to the goddamn 70s from these same ivory tower Marxists, so check it out for yourself, and you'll realize eventually how much you're being gaslit. They've sanitized their views a little bit for public consumption, like not mentioning the whole being openly and avowedly influenced by Karl Marx part. That might not sit well with the average person in the public, but we'll go into wokeness in general. Wokeness is weakness, according to me. Now, I'm being deliberately glib when I say that. It tends to rile up the leftists. No, you're just a racist. Trumpanzee. Orange man bad. I love it how they almost always default to talking about Trump or something when you bring this up. It's rather interesting. It's almost like they have nothing else to talk about. Not enough neurons in their head. It's so full of TDS, there's no room for anything else other than proclaiming wokeness. But now they're gaslighting in 2 ways. I've even seen, I think it's still up right now on RCP, there are articles from leftoid rags saying maybe we need to retire the use of the term wokeness. That's because you failed to predefine it. What the left likes to do, and when you're using newspeak, you need to make sure that you predefine things. You create a rigid definition of something and then put it out there, and that defends it, because you've already created a family-friendly sounding label for something preemptively, so that it takes time to fact-check it. So when you look into what wokeness actually proposes, equity and stuff like that, really what it is a bunch of discrimination, a bunch of Marxist horseshit, a bunch of lies. It's based on historical revisionism. It's trash. But you try to predefine it and make it more sanitized so that people can't criticize it. Unfortunately for the left, that didn't happen. Their predefinition fell flat. They didn't do it right. So now they're thinking about retiring the term, and they're gaslighting and pretending there is no singular definition of wokeness. Well, there is. You created one yourself, it's just that that's not what it actually represents, and people pointed this out and redefined it themselves, and so now you're seeking to implode your own term because it's dead weight, it's no longer useful. The average American does not support the premise, the sub-premises of wokeness. It's sort of like when you define wokeness with that leftoid definition. There's a poll only a few days ago that I talked about on this. Most Americans approve of it, but only if you define it as leftists wish it to be defined. If you look at every subjugate detail of what wokeness creates, all of the various anti-white discrimination, more reparations, all of these other things, ESG, diversity training, none of them are approved of by the majority of the American public. Now, if every single component of something is unapproved of in general, sometimes by a significant margin, why is the premise under which they all fall approved of? It's because of the original preemptive definition. It's because of newspeak. We've seen this before from other groups, haven't we? Clean coal. The coal lobby said, well, we've got better scrubbers now. Yeah, it doesn't reduce all of the emissions or all the pollutants, but it's better than it was. We'll call it clean coal. And we'll have pictures of nice white wispy smoke and steam rising up out of the smokestack, and it'll be surrounded by deer and birds and pine trees and shit like that. Well, it's not clean. It's cleaner, but cleaner coal probably wouldn't have worked as a preemptive term. This one also fell flat, by the way. There's a reason you don't hear about it much anymore. The Patriot Act. What the fuck is patriotic about it? It has nothing to do with patriotism under a civic definition, a historical definition, or a pragmatic definition. Antifa. And we're anti-fascist. No, you're not. You're communists and anarchists, mostly. that beat up random people, declare others Nazis in order to justify arson, and do violent things, and go into the black neighborhood and burn their Starbucks because you need your avocado toast in the morning for $10. That's what you are. You're not actually anti-fascist at all. If anything, your endorsement of the wokeness thing is closer to fascism when it bleeds over into corporate land. Then that's the truth. And all of these things are newspeak. No child left behind. Well, no, it's more like no child left. Good preemptive programming, though, because the public, in its low-info form, hears the moniker and they associate it with positive or negative things based on what the label is. With wokeness, the left failed to properly predefine it early and often enough in order to defend the terminology. So all of its subjugate parts are disapproved of. A significant proportion of people, and rising, don't approve of wokeness at all, because they don't understand it to mean, hey, I'm aware of these historical grievances and feel pity for other people that are lesser than myself, because that's not what it represents. That's the sanitized definition. It's the propagandistic definition. So they seek to self-destruct their own meme because it didn't fucking work. Again, this happens all of the time. The left is normally better at organizational newspeak. The right wing tends to be better at disorganized meme making and chaos campaigns and things of that nature. There's a reason why Pepe took off and all of the leftoid versions of it sucked. It's about irreducible complexity. I already got into that in occult memetics and made several videos touching on that point years ago. The left normally does better than this when it comes to defending their newspeak terminology. And CRT does delve heavily into propagandistic use of linguistics. Again, for all of you that are younger out there, in high school or you're in college, take a course on linguistics and or linguistic anthropology. It will open your eyes, I assure you, if the professor is competent at all. I hope that the professor that taught that still at UVM, he was only an associate professor at the time. Or was he? He might have just been a lecturer. Hopefully they gave him a tenured position. He was a good professor. He did a good job at that. It was an interesting course. Of course, I also liked art history. So sue me. I wanted a filler course. I wanted to look at Baroque paintings for a while. And I wanted to be in a class where there's no audience participation and it's theater style and I could just look at fucking paintings for an hour. It's basically the reason that I took it. And I was sober at the time. Interesting days. That's about all. Peace out.